So, what's the secret sauce that holds a country together? And, on the flip side, what makes a nation completely fly apart? Well, it's not just luck. Turns out, it's this constant high-stakes tug-of-war happening inside every country. And today, we're going to break down exactly how it works.
I mean, this is the big question, right? Why do some nations just work, while others seem to fall apart? What are these invisible forces that are either weaving a country together or just ripping it apart at the seams? Well, that's exactly what we're going to get into. And it really all boils down to two big ideas, two opposing forces. On one side, you've got what are called centrifugal forces. Think of a centrifuge spinning really fast and flinging everything outwards. That's what these forces do. They push a state apart. And on the other side, you've got centripetal forces. These guys do the exact opposite. They pull everything in toward the center, binding the nation together.
All right, so here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we're going to dive into those forces that can really tear a nation apart. Then, we'll flip the script and look at the glue that holds countries together. After that, we'll check out what happens when that crucial balance is lost. And finally, we'll bring it all home and see why this matters in the world you see on the news every day. Sound good? Let's go.
Okay, first up, let's start with the tough stuff. The forces that are actively trying to pull a country apart from the inside.
Yeah, these are those centrifugal forces we were talking about. You can think of them as these constant pressures, these little cracks in a country's foundation. And if they get too strong, well, the whole thing can come crumbling down. And when those forces completely take over, you end up with what's called a failed state. This is the absolute worst-case scenario. It's when a government basically loses control. It can't protect its people or provide even the most basic services. We're talking about things like out-of-control corruption, like we see in North Korea, or these nonstop ethnic and religious conflicts like in Yemen and Somalia. It's a situation where basic security, healthcare, even the right to vote, it's all just gone.
Now, another huge centrifugal force? Massive inequality. And this slide just says it all, doesn't it? When you've got these two totally different realities existing side by side, like gleaming luxury towers right next to sprawling shantytowns in Mumbai, or a rich, booming north in Italy while the south gets left behind, that creates some serious resentment. That kind of division can really start to pull a country apart.
And then there's this really fascinating and often tragic situation called a stateless nation. The Kurds are probably the best-known example. Here you have this huge group of people, millions of them, with their own distinct language, culture, and identity. But they don't have their own country. Their homeland is split across 4 different states: Syria, Iraq, Iran, and Turkey.
So you can see how this sets up a major conflict, right? The Kurds want their own state, a place to call their own. But the countries they live in, especially a place like Turkey, see that desire for independence as a huge threat to their own borders and their own power. And that tension, it's a constant source of instability in that whole region.
And we've seen this exact scenario play out in a really dramatic way in Sudan. After independence, the Muslim-led government in the north really pushed aside the Christian minority in the south. So what happened? A powerful southern nationalist movement was born out of that marginalization, which led to decades of absolutely brutal civil war. And the end result? In 2011, South Sudan officially became its own independent country. It's a really clear, tragic example of centrifugal forces completely winning that tug of war.
All right, that was pretty heavy. So let's switch gears and talk about the other side of this tug of war. Let's look at the centripetal forces, the anchors that actually hold a nation together. And what's so interesting is that a force like ethno-nationalism, the very thing that tore Sudan apart, can also be an incredibly powerful unifier. A shared identity can be like a shield. You see it in places like Japan, which is mostly one ethnic group, and that creates incredible social stability. Or look at Belarus. An outside threat from a neighbor like Russia can actually forge an even stronger national identity, uniting people against that common enemy.
But hey, unity isn't just about a shared identity. A lot of it comes down to just plain good government. When a state actually invests in its people and does it fairly across the whole country, building good roads, a reliable power grid, clean water for everyone, it creates this amazing positive feedback loop. People's lives get better, their standard of living goes up, and you know what? Their loyalty to the state gets a whole lot stronger.
States also work really, really hard to build this sense of unity through cultural stuff. Just think about national symbols for a second. A flag is never just a piece of cloth, right? It's a rallying point. National anthems, shared holidays, all of these things are designed to create a sense of us,
a common identity that can hopefully rise above all our other little differences.
Oh, and let's not forget about sports. Seriously, things like the Olympics or the World Cup are massive centripetal forces. It's amazing. For a few weeks, practically everyone in the country is on the same team, wearing the same colors, feeling that collective pride or heartbreak. It is a huge, huge unifier.
And finally, there's education. This one's a long game, but it's super important. By having a standardized school curriculum, states make sure that every new generation learns the same national history, hears the same stories, and is taught the same common values. It's really a way of building a unified identity from the ground up.
Okay, so we've got these forces pulling countries apart and these other forces holding them together. But here's the key thing to understand. A stable country isn't one where the good forces just crush the bad ones. It's all about finding a delicate balance between the two.
And this table really lays it all out, side by side. You've got these centrifugal forces leading to fragmentation and weakening the state, and the centripetal forces aiming for unity and strengthening it. But the biggest takeaway here is not that one is good and the other is bad. Think about it. A healthy, dynamic country will have tensions and disagreements. Those are centrifugal forces. The trick is making sure these centripetal forces, the sense of unity, the good governance, the shared culture, are strong enough to manage those tensions and keep the whole thing from flying apart.
Look, this isn't just some dusty old textbook theory. This framework, this idea of a constant tug-of-war, this is exactly how geographers and political analysts look at the world right now. It's the lens they use to understand the conflicts and the stability of nations that we all see in the headlines every single day.
And so that leaves me with a final question for you. When you look around at the world today, when you watch the news and see all the different tensions playing out, which side of that rope do you think is pulling harder right now? Are the forces that divide us winning, or are the forces that unite us holding strong? It's something to think about.